Inside one of the busiest airports in the world, a woman handed immigration officers a passport from a country that doesn't exist, not unrecognized, never existed. No records, no borders, no history. Yet the passport passed every security test. When asked where she was from, she calmly pointed to a place that wasn't on any map and said something chilling. It was there yesterday. Moments later, airport cameras glitched and the woman vanished without a trace, leaving behind a passport that went completely blank. Was this an AI hoax, or proof that someone crossed into our world from another reality? Welcome to Cipher, where history meets mystery. In this story, you're about to step into a case that even official records deny it ever happened. So please watch this story till the very end. At 2:17 a.m., on an unusually quiet winter night at John F. Kennedy International Airport, when fluorescent lights hum louder than human voices, and time seems to stretch unnaturally between arrivals, a woman stepped forward at an immigration counter that would later become the center of one of the internet's most unsettling mysteries, her posture.com. Her face unreadable, her eyes fixed, not on the officer in front of her, but somewhere just beyond him, as if she were remembering a place that no longer existed. And when the officer asked for her passport, she slid it across the counter without hesitation, the cover worn yet immaculate, embossed with a crest no database could recognize, bearing a name that meant nothing and everything at once. Torenza, a country that did not exist on any modern map, a nation absent from treaties, satellites, borders, or history books, yet printed in flawless typography as if it had been issuing passports for centuries. The officer frowned, assuming at first it was a novelty item or an elaborate prank, but the document passed every physical test: watermarks, microtext, biometric chip triggering. None of the usual alarms, yet lighting up none of the systems either, existing in a blind spot that should not have been possible. And when asked where Torenza was located, the woman replied without confusion, without urgency, explaining in precise geographic terms that placed it between regions that did not align in this reality, referencing mountain ranges that once existed only in ancient geological models. Speaking of neighboring countries by names that sounded familiar but wrong, like echoes of places humanity almost remembered but never lived in. And as supervisors gathered and whispers spread through the terminal, the woman remained unervingly patient, insisting not that she was lost, but that everyone else was, that something had shifted during her flight, that the sky itself had felt thinner. The stars misaligned, the hours shorter, and when asked how long she had lived in Torenza, she smiled faintly and said, "All my life," and several others, a phrase that would later circulate online, stripped of context and drenched in speculation. And when officials attempted to cross-check her identity through international channels, the systems returned error after error. Not denial, not failure, but absence, as if her data existed somewhere adjacent to the world rather than inside it. And the woman was escorted to a private holding room where cameras captured only fragments of what happened next, moments where her face appeared to blur slightly when she moved too quickly, moments where her reflection lagged behind her actions by a fraction of a second, moments where audio recordings picked up faint, overlapping voices when she spoke, as if several versions of her were answering at once. And when a linguistics expert was brought in, he noted that her accent was impossible to place. Consistent, yet inconsistent, following rules no known language family used anymore, sounding at times ancient, and at others impossibly modern. And when questioned about her journey, she described boarding a flight that left from an airport with the same name yet different architecture, flying over oceans that glowed faintly green at night, experiencing turbulence that felt more like pressure than motion, and landing at what she assumed was home until the signs looked wrong. The faces unfamiliar, the air heavier, and she realized she had arrived somewhere she was not meant to be. And as hours passed without resolution, the woman grew neither angry nor afraid, only increasingly concerned for the people questioning her, warning them gently that prolonged exposure to misaligned continuity could cause memory erosion, emotional flattening, and eventually something she referred to as narrative collapse, a term no one understood at the time but would later be used by online theorists to describe the strange after effects reported by staff present at night: officers who forgot personal milestones, supervisors who dreamed of cities they had never visited, security footage that intermittently corrupted itself around the timestamps of her presence. And then, just before dawn, when exhaustion had dulled the edge of disbelief, The woman asked a single question that would never appear in any official report. Has anyone noticed the clock stop trying to count forward? And moments later, a power fluctuation swept through that terminal wing, lasting only 7 seconds. Yet during that brief blackout, every camera lost signal, every recording glitched, every digital log skipped a beat. And when the lights returned, the holding room was empty, the chairs still warm, the passport still on the table, but its cover now blank, the crest gone. The word Torenza erased as if it had never been printed. And authorities sealed the incident under administrative review, dismissing leaked clips as miscaptioned footage, AI manipulation, internet fiction. Yet fragments continued to surface, screenshots of internal memos referencing non-conforming identity events, audio snippets where her voice overlapped itself mid-sentence, testimony from a janitor who claimed he saw her walking calmly toward a service corridor that no longer existed on the blueprints. And then weeks later, the internet did what it always does, turning uncertainty into obsession, comparing the story to the old legend of the man from Taured, arguing whether this was an ARG, a hoax, a deep, or proof of parallel realities, brushing against one another. But what unsettled researchers most were the details that didn't go viral, the ones buried in technical appendices and discarded drafts. That the passport's biometric chip emitted a frequency not used in any civilian technology. That the woman's fingerprints subtly changed between scans, that timestamps in her vicinity consistently desynchronized by milliseconds, and that one officer, weeks after the event, woke up with a word on his lips he could not translate, yet somehow understood. A word that felt like home. And that same word appeared months later in unrelated Placiza scribble on a subway wall, a username on a forum discussing missing countries, a single subtitle error in a live stream that vanished on refresh. And while governments denied everything and platforms flagged content as misinformation, the myth of Torenza grew, not as a place, but as an idea, a reminder that reality might not be as sealed as we believe, that borders may fail not only on land but between versions of the world itself, and that somewhere, perhaps even now, someone is stepping through an airport terminal holding a passport from a country that exists just one decision, one vibration, one misaligned moment away from ours, waiting patiently as officials try to prove she doesn't belong, unaware that the real question is whether we do.